Well, hello and welcome to that beautiful hour of the day. You sit back and relax, bring the issues, and we talk and deliberate about them. Well, June 4th is just gone, and as usual, ex-President Rawlings and his comrades, always celebrate that day, when trying to get people to be aware of the reasons why June 4th came about and the need for people to respect the reasons, particularly the NDC that was born out of the revolution. It breaks his heart to see them depart so far away from the ideals that brought the revolution in forth. And indeed, in one of his speeches, he said that the reasons for which June 4th came about and the life that was lost and the blood that was shed, what's happening now is 1,000 times worse than what happened. Now that must be very, very heartbreaking for President Rawlings or ex-President Rawlings, to know that, you slaughtered generals for things they had done wrong. And then the party and the culture or the party that grew out of that revolution are doing things which are far worse than why those people are shot. We are to find out if indeed he wants his party back, if he can take it back, if he can, be influential as a godfather as he was before. Today also marks 1 week of Major Maxwell Mahama. Today he was promoted to Major. The president visited the house and posthumously promoted him to Major. So he's no more Captain Mahama, he's Major Mahama. President promised to give 500,000 Ghana cedis as sort of a seed fund to look after the wife and the children. But in general, like I said, there's two kinds of lives in Ghana. A life with a voice and those with no voice. And if you have a life with no voice, you can be stoned to death, whatever it is, and you may not make the headlines. Even though Majors is exceptional, because this is peacetime and he's a soldier protecting his own country, and for his own country to treat him that way, it makes his case exceptional. It doesn't take away the fact about elitism and who we value and not value, but life indeed should be valued. My name is Nana Ansakwa, the fourth chief of the famous little republic of Akwemwe Dumasa. When I come back, I'm talking to a very fine professor on these subjects, and his jurisdiction extends to both. Don't move.
I thought we had the jockeys claiming the horses were responsible for this disgraceful failure, while one of the horses was bold enough to lay the failure of the doorstep also at the step of the jockeys. For me, we lost our masses because we betrayed the values of June 4th. However, if this horse jockey business cannot be resolved comprehensively, allowing integrity most of all to prevail, then let both of them step aside and allow for fresh leaders with solid integrity to provide the needed leadership.
So that's what happened in Wa on that fateful June 4th, which one day posterity would decide whether it was a good thing for Ghana or was bad for Ghana. Posterity will decide. But for now, we are being pushed and told. I'm wondering, many, many years from today, when President Rawlings is no more, will there be, followers of June 4th who will still stand up and celebrate this day because it means to them or not? Posterity always decide. Once upon a time, Kwame Nkrumah was so vilified. Sidi Kwasiabiti Daso, Otigini Trabe, all that was levied against him. And then about 30 years after his death, we realized that indeed he was the most important thing to us, and we made him man of the millennium. So posterity decided. Will posterity decide on June 4th? With me in the studio, Professor Ransford Jampo, Senior Lecturer, Political Science and also director of the for Foreign Studies.
Center for European Studies.
Center for European Studies. Center for European Studies, University of Ghana. Prof, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Today marks 1 week of your faithful friend and son and student, Major, who was posthumously promoted today to Major Maxwell Mahama. 1 week. I'm sure you want to say, just a few words. I just want to find out, that savagery in us from the universities where you think that by this time we have studied and we have become gentlemen, we beat people up mercilessly, they are guilty, until they're able to prove themselves innocent. And it cuts across from the highest university to the lowest slum. What's wrong?
Well, first of all, may his soul rest in peace. And we also want to express our condolence to the wife, the children, and the entire family. It's sad and I get emotional about this. But the point is...
you thought him, right?
Yes, he was my student. Wow. And his wife was also my student. In fact, they were in the same class. And I think around that time, I'll say they were just friends. And they were always seen, together. And I know that because Major was always also active serving the nation, anytime he absented himself from lectures, he relied extensively on the information given to him by the then friend, who later became the wife, and all that. I know him in person. I mean, apart from the fact that he was my student, he became my friend. And then there were so many things that he did for me as a military man and all that, advising me on all manner of security issues and all that. And so I feel the pain, I feel the death so much, particularly when this happened. The whole of the Monday that this happened, well, I had heard that some soldier had been lynched, but I didn't pay attention. I was not so much listening until the following day, Tuesday in the evening, that I opened a website and I saw his image there. I shed a lot of tears. But like I said, may his soul rest in peace. I'm happy the president has been there, announced this fund. Is it $500,000 or 500,000 cedis? Well, it's a good show, and we hope that all other funds that are being collected, those that have been described as fake and those that are not fake, they would all find their way into this, so that at the end of the day would contribute to assuaging the pain of losing a father, the pain of losing a husband. I mean, will contribute to minimizing, this. I think we should say never again as a nation, and if it is possible, let the state go erect a statue or a monument, in that town where there is no mercy, that town where there is no compassion, that town where people behave as if they are not Ghanaians, that town where women don't have sympathy. If possible, the state may consider erecting a monument there, so that when they see the image of Major Mahama, it would pinch them and it would remind them that they killed a human being like a rat, and that it should be never again. Again, those who are found culpable, those who are found to have done this, should be dealt with ruthlessly according to the law. I know that as we speak now, capital punishment is still part of our statute book. If it is necessary that it be implemented or applied to them, let it be done, and let everybody see that this is being done to them, so that it may serve as a kind of a lesson. You see, human beings are naturally creatures of emotions and not creatures of logic. And so it is quite natural for one to feel like doing something to an armed robber, particularly when you've struggled enough or struggled a lot to make a property, and then somebody wants to come and use a few seconds to just steal them or run away with them. When you get that person, you want to do something to them. But it is because we are not creatures of logic, and yet but we are creatures of emotion. That's how come we have rational laws. The laws are supposed to help us regulate our emotions. So it is important that in spite of the fact that we have our emotions and our emotions may direct us, we'll have to subject such emotions, under the laws of the land, so that we don't end up lynching innocent people, even if the person is caught in the act. I think it is not in our place to lynch the person. Professor Kanatifa, I heard him this morning saying that he was almost lynched. And so it can be you, it can be me. And before the people get to know that it's Nanansa Kwao or Ranso Jampo, you may be gone. And so it's important that we use this as a sacrifice to teach ourselves a painful lesson. And never again should we lynch people, because we may end up lynching innocent people. And it is important that this thing gets ingrained in our psyche. Those in charge of civic education, those in charge of political socialization must step up, must up their game. NCC and civil society organizations and political parties and all and sundry, we must be part of a kind of educational and sensitization drive aimed at ingraining in the psyche of Ghanaians that we are a nation with some cultural values, and we believe in human dignity, the dignity of human life, that we cannot just do things haphazardly to just sacrifice human life.
Well, let him be our Jesus Christ, who came to save us from lynching. Indeed, his life should not go in vain. If it happens like that, we would have really done ourselves a massive major disservice. The laws of Major Mahama should never, ever go in vain. Serious lessons should be learned from it, as we are about to learn about the lessons of June 4th. A very popular uprising. The people called for it, the people supported it, and therefore let the blood flow, and the blood was flowing. Let's start from there. I mean, were you a June 4th supporter?
Oh, I'm sure I was a small boy then.
Everybody was jumping up and down, let the blood flow, I was a little boy then, and I remember there were some adults in the area who were driving and screeching their cars along, so I begged to be, sit in the car. And I sat in the car and we're driving through the streets of Dansuman, and the euphoria everywhere. There was this joy that this liberation had come. Was it needed?
Well, I don't know. Around the time, people would say it was needed because the way and manner society had been turned upside down, and the way the young man then, Jerry Rawlings, stormed the scene, and the way he spoke during the May 15 trial, following the May 15th uprising, the trial that followed, the way he spoke in defense of his own people, and the way he sacrificed himself, that look, leave my men alone and deal with me. I mean, portrayed him or made him to be seen in the eyes of people as quote unquote the Messiah. That's how come he was called Jesus. And so people felt he held the keys to redemption from the shackles of smuggling, corruption, and all manner of evils that had been pervasive, in the country around the time. And so that's how come people supported him to that extent, to the extent that of killing people, and then some going on demonstration that let the blood flow more. to the extent that people were prepared to sacrifice their lectures and to go into the hinterlands to cart cocoa from the villages to city centers for transportation or for export and all that. And so he had the support around the time, and simply because the evils within the society had reached a certain height, and he showed himself as the man on the moment who wielded the key to be able to deal with those evil acts.
I've heard people say that, Jerry Rawlings himself had very good intentions. However, the people, the intellectuals he surrounded himself with to help implement his revolution ideas let him down.
Well, I don't know, but the backstop with the leader, I know that at a point in time he had to speak against certain things that were going on, certain abuses that were being perpetrated by people, so particularly soldiers, against ordinary people, innocent people and all that. As to whether he didn't receive wise counsel or he did receive wise counsel, you and I were not there. But the point is that as leader, the buck stops with you. And so if there were ills or evils around the time, he takes the ultimate responsibility. Just as when there were praises, we showered it only on him. And so the point is, it is up to the leader to choose his own followers and his own advisors and all that. And so if you surround yourself with people who may turn out to ill advise you, then you take the blame. But I don't know whether they ill advised him or they didn't ill advise him.
Again, the NDC was born out of the PNDC. He came up with the revolution, probity and accountability. We now have to move into civilian rule, therefore we are going to NDC. So it's the same ideology. I mean, apart from just throwing away the camouflage, it's the same thing we are bringing into our party. As for this party, probity and accountability is going to be our hallmark. I mean, do you think those in the party now, like the young ones and those moving the party now, still have a link or connection to that revolution, or they seem to think they dropped from the sky and no link?
I'm not sure the link is that much there, and so that's the reason why for Rawlings it is always important to continue to celebrate June 4th. I don't know whether tomorrow, if he's not there, people may want to continue it. But the point is, you can see that so many people, including some former ministers and all that, who were either young or they were not there when some of these things happened. And so it is normal for them not to appreciate the ideals and to be able to know where we were and where we are as a nation. And unfortunately, Rawlings alone cannot socialize them into believing in or into knowing what transpired there. And the other bit is that I'm not sure that the man Rawlings himself stayed so pure and so committed to the very ideals that he stood for at the time of June 4, because somewhere along the lines he faltered. There were certain corrupt deals or allegations of corruption and all that. I remember the 1995 or something, a whole Shraj initiated a report, came out with a report that indicted some of his ministers, Ibrahim Adam and all that. The report indicted them, but Rawlings issued a white paper to cover them up, to counteract the findings of Shraj against his own ministers. And so, isn't it a contradiction of the concept of probity and accountability? He himself, recently we heard the story from Nigeria that those things that went on. And so the point is, it is easy to pontificate anti-corruption and to pontificate self-righteousness, but you should know that it is a double-edged sword. As it points to others, it points to you too. The battle against corruption appears to have been fought and lost in our part of the world, and Jerry Rawlings alone cannot do much in ensuring that we are corrupt-free. It is a whole national issue. The government of the day, the civic educators, and all and sundry must be part to fight the canker of corruption. June 4 and the statement that comes out of Rawlings' mouth alone will be a drop in the ocean when it comes to the fight against corruption.
You see, you take something like the CPP, you take something like the NPP. I mean, the JB Dankwas and the Nkrumahs are not there, but those today still have a direct lineage. We are Dankwa Buzia people, we are CPP people. And even though you argue that, look, Nkrumah's ideals, the times have changed and may not be relevant, they still hang on to it. And Nkrumah's 7-year plan, they still even talk about it today. So what is it about the NDC that the young ones coming cannot latch onto it to say, look, we came out of a revolution that says probity and accountability, and therefore this is the religion or this is our belief towards our party?
Well, like I said, those who came out with these principles, these concepts themselves faulted. Okay, they couldn't hold on to it, to them in that firm and undiluted manner. And so if you faulted, and at a point in time, a whole you had investigations and probings into your own affairs and all that, and found some of your people to be guilty and all that, then it becomes difficult. But more importantly, a lot of the guys were not born, and the party itself has not been able to socialize its own young people. You see, the traditions, political traditions and ideologies do not seem to matter to many Ghanaians. And so the Rawlings tradition may be there, but it is up to those at the helm of affairs to help indoctrinate and socialize people about some of these ideals. But they themselves, sometimes they either may have forgotten, or they find they are unable to socialize people about them. Probity, accountability, and all those fine concepts that were thrown out there as a result of June 4th. They seem to have been pushed into oblivion, because those who were supposed to be people bearing, holding on to it, they themselves also faltered along the line and all that. And so I find it a bit amazing when I hear Jerry Rawlings every year wanting to go to organize June 4 and to continue talking like the way he's always been talking. It is dying down, and it will take others in joining him. It wouldn't take one day commemoration to instill these ideals in people. If we believe in probity and accountability, we must latch on to them as a nation and own them, and ensure that people get socialized about it and keep them as part of them. Otherwise, it would always be a yearly affair.
But can the Rawlings factor be underplayed in the NDC fraternity, party, religion, group?
You see, it's a yes or no matter. No, because politics is about the game of numbers, and whether you like it or not, Jerry Rawlings has a certain following within the party, and in the NDC in opposition now cannot afford to lose such following, and so it is their own interest to find ways and means of building bridges and bringing those who may have fallen apart, on board. A little no, because things have changed. Ghanaians have moved on. People within his own party have moved on. In 2012, he openly campaigned against his party. In 2016, his wife contested, against the then certain president. And 2016, there was nothing that he did to support his own party. And yet, the party went on in 2012 to win the election. and all that. It is not because Rawlings was not part of the NDC campaign in 2016, that's why the party lost. The party was going to lose anyway. And so my point is, we must understand what we call charisma. Rawlings is charismatic, but charisma wins. Charisma is time-bound. Okay, so it is relevant within a certain epoch. It is relevant within a certain time frame. If that time frame passes, it becomes irrelevant. And so you're telling me at one point in time when people were being killed, others were going about supporting and calling for more blood to flow. Okay, look at this period in which we find ourselves. A soldier has been killed and people are saying, no, you can't go that route. See, so the times have changed. You remember gentilization, the period where Selassie Gentile could have his hair shaved with broken bottles, and the wife, Mrs. Rawlings, could openly say on Joy FM that it was just a mere identification haircut. You can't say that today, and you can't do that today. So there was a time where...
But there are young people today watching who may not have even heard of it.
Yeah. So there was a time when these things were supported, and as a revolutionary leader, you knew you had the support and you could command. I mean, it got to a time there was what we call a culture of silence. If you spoke against the regime, you were either killed or you got disappeared and all that. But these things are now a thing of the past. And so if you continue to make utterances as if we are still in those times, then people may say that, well, maybe you don't know what's up. The times have changed. I know during Kufuor's time and even during Atamilsa's time, I think Jerry Rawlings wanted things to be done in a certain way. Okay, but these leaders were also saying, no, we are in a democratic dispensation. Okay, things cannot be done as if we are in a military coup junta and all that. So my advice to him is that, look, there can be no meaningful discussion or write-up on Ghana's political history without giving a prime role in that chapter to Jerry Rawlings. He's done his part, and physically he's aging, and he cannot be. He wouldn't remain till eternity. Okay, and so it is important that if his ideals, the ideals of June 4th, are still relevant, it is important that a way be found to ensure that these ideals get seriously incorporated and ingrained in the party's psyche and be implemented. The way to go about this is not to antagonize the people in the party. Otherwise, they will call your bluff and tell you to hell with you, like they did in 2012.
Let me take a quick break here and come back and say, you know, in 2012 they succeeded. In 2016, they might not have entirely contributed to the loss, but how much of a percentage was it? Stay tuned. We're coming straight back. Thank you very much for staying, and we're looking at June 4th, its relevance, and NDC's loss. How much of a factor is Jerry Rawlings? Now, Prof, you're sort of thinking that the NDC have a chance of winning without Rawlings. I beg to differ. I think if they attempt, their loss will be even more miserable than it is now. Because you cannot be NDC without Rawlings. It's like being CPP and say, as for me, I don't care a hoot about Kwame Nkrumah.
No, they won without Jerry Rawlings in 2012. And don't forget that in 2012, Rawlings, did something that politically hasn't been done before, allowing the then opposition leader to pay a courtesy call on him. Nana Akufo to pay the courtesy call on him. Anyway, it's all political and all that. But they won without him. I'm not saying that he's not relevant, but I'm saying that the history of Ghanaian politics does not support the fact that a leader who founded a party and later power, left him. All of a sudden people went for him and his ideals, and then he became the power broker and he became somebody without whom. You see, one of the challenges of the Nkrumah's fraternity is that...
Let me just say hello to Dr. Brenya, Senior Lecturer, Political Science, KNUST. Dr. Brenya, you're welcome.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, if you just stay on, I'll get Prof. Jampo to land and then I'll come straight.
That's fine.
Good.
Yeah, so one of the challenges of people of the Nkrumah's fraternity is that instead of thinking about doing something new, appealing more to young people and all that, they are still talking about Nkrumah-ism, and still thinking their attitude, in my view, the kinds of things that they do, if Nkrumah were alive, would have done something different. Okay, that epoch is gone. That time is past. And so it is important for them to think about doing something new. In the same way, Rawlings as a person, as a founder, you cannot discount him. Okay, but the point is, it will be difficult for the party to go back to his firm, grip again. If somebody is saying, unless that happens, the NDC would not win power again, then the person may not be speaking to reality. It is important that they accord him with all respect. It is important that they treat him as a founder and give him all the courtesies and all that. But the point is, the party cannot continue to revolve around him.
Let me bring Dr. Brenya in, Dr. Edward Brenya, Senior Lecturer, Political Science Department, KNUST. Doc, what are your views? We're looking at June 4th, its relevance today, the relationship between founder and party, and even if the party still believes in the ideals of the founder. But let me start with you. Do you think the party believes in the ideals of the founder, or the founder is probably just a bit too much for the party now?
Good evening once again. When it comes to June 4th and Jerry John Rawlings, there are two individuals that, entities that seem to be married together. Take NDC, just as I was saying. At the moment, Rawlings seems to be an individual that you cannot actually live without in terms of a political party, as far as the NDC is concerned. And I think much has to do with the history of how the party itself was founded. Because he founded a party based on the those that believe in some of the activities, and those people, as you said, they are still a huge chunk of the voting population, as it has to do with the NDC. So you have those people, but rightly, just as your guest was saying, they alone will not make up the 50% plus one that is needed to actually win an election. The NDC from 92 to 2000 and 2000 to 2008, all the way to 2017, 16, 17, the NDC has evolved. The NDC cannot be NDC today is not the NDC of the late Akamel's era. Neither is it the NDC of Jerry John Rawlings' era. Neither can we even claim at this point that NDC is the ND of Muhammad's era. The NDC has evolved. A lot of change. New members, in terms of even the voting population, the age group, new people with new ideologies and ideals and beliefs have joined the party. And because these people have come in for different reasons, the founder still believes that the NDC needs to be the NDC that it was in 92. But in terms of people that he thinks share the ideals of the June 4th, I don't think that is possible. That is absolutely not possible. The Rawlings can have those individuals, let me call them the June 4 faithful, as the individuals that would actually determine the NDC's ability to win election. Having said that, at the same time, Rawlings becomes someone that if NDC should totally ignore Rawlings, that is, if if you don't pay attention to him as a funder, because he still has some people whom I can say that he sort of controlled their heart and mind in terms of, one, the fact that he funded, the way he lived his life, his persona. Because he still has people that he still appeals to, NDC without Rawlings at this point also become problem. Winning an election without a Rawlings factor. But that does not mean that Rawlings alone or the Rawlings factor alone can win an election. No.
But can he take the party back, i.e., probably, decide who becomes flag bearer and, from the back and play a stronger godfather role? Do you think he can take it back now?
I think that is what he's been pushing for. And this started about, let's say, 2 years back. 2 years back when they came to Kumasi, when they were selecting the leaders of the party. At Kumasi, you had the likes of the current national chairman of the NDC winning election, Kofi Adam and others winning election. Those were the times that the Rawlings factor was coming in. And to a large extent, the former president did play a role in actually getting, let me use the word, Rawlings faithfuls to actually win many of the major seats at the national level. As to whether or not he is going to take the party back, of course, at this point, the party is wounded. When you go to an election and you lose, then, of course, it's easy for people to point out, and I think Rawlings is doing that and doing that very well, pointing people, accusing figures at them and say, well, if you have listened to me, you wouldn't have gone to an opposition. Whether or not it was because the people did not heed to Rawlings' advice that actually led got the NDC to position a big question, because right now we cannot run away from the fact that the 8-year rule for a party is somehow, this is not very scientific because we've not party for a long time, but it looks like Ghanaians are more sticking to the 8 years. A party after 8 years must leave and a new party comes in. So a whole lot of variables can be checked. But the effort that is being done by Rawlings right now is to make sure is the belief that this is the time for me to take off. But I don't think that alone will actually get NDC back. I don't think it's even going to be possible. It's not even going to be possible. You might get a lot of the June 4 faithful being elected at the national level. But without let me use the Atamil factor, without the Mahama factor, NDC would not get back to the flag star house.
Thank you very much there, Doc. And funny enough, Prof, that was what I was going to just ask you that, obviously, ex-President Mahama is expressing will that, listen, I need to come back, finish my 4 years. Can he do that without
Has he said he wants to come back?
Well, it's in the grapevine. And
that's grapevine. Let him openly say so. But
assuming he's going to come back. Assuming he's going to come back. Can he do it without?
Well, it depends on how the current administration governs. It depends on how they are able to meet their promises that they've made to teaming Ghanaians. If they govern well, it will be difficult for the NDC as a party to think of 2020. But if they don't govern well, they are unable to meet their promises and all that, then it will be a keen competition.
Assuming this government slips, and therefore people are thinking of an alternative, and Mr. Mahama was coming back. Can he come back on his own and say, look, forget the Rawlings?
Well, it depends on what the people say. You see, what Rawlings is saying, Rawlings is not a kingmaker. He doesn't select who leads the party. It's the people within the party who do so. We should not lose sight of the fact that at one point in time, his wife wanted to be the flag bearer, and it was not possible. And so, yes, he can have a say, but the people would have their way in determining whether it is a Rawlings person or whoever must be elected.
Is his relation with the MPP a bit unusual?
Well, I don't know.
It seems very amicable.
Well, no, he's a former president, a statesman. And so, in my view, it should be possible for him to relate with all political parties.
But he didn't give Kufuor the same cordiality.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It should be possible for him to relate cordially with all political parties, not being selective. He should be able to relate with the opposition party. He should be that is his own party. He should be able to also relate with the ruling party in his capacity as a statesman. At a certain point in life, you have to transcend partisan politics. Unfortunately, sometimes you don't get many people doing that. And
well, he has transcended partisan politics now, because he has admonished what his party did and wasn't right. He's publicly said, look, at this time Nanado is a better person because he believes in his ideals, not necessarily an MPP supporter, but he just thinks that the man's ideals and principles are good.
I'm not sure if the party had been placed under his firm grip, he would have said all those things that he's saying. And so for me, it's a matter of just convenience and all that. But the point is, look, we have a ruling
But that's not fair. That's not fair, because he could have easily kept quiet. He could have easily kept quiet. That, okay, fine, I'm not happy with my party, but I won't go ahead and praise your candidate.
This is not the first time. It happened in 2012. He also granted audience and had felicitations with him, audience to the then opposition leader Nanado, who is now our president, and all that. So the point is, in my view, it is something that is being done to spite his own party. But it is important for us to know, including Jerry Rawlings, to know that we have a ruling party governing, and in order for them to be able to do what they said they will be doing, you need a united opposition to keep them on their toes. If they perform well, okay, Ghana benefits. If we divide the opposition's front, and so the opposition spends all its time deciding on whether to please Rawlings or to please Mahama, then at the end of the day, the ruling party may relax. And if they are unable to be kept on their toes to deliver on their promise, it is all of us who would suffer. So I wish the NDC well as they try to keep themselves together, and I wish the incumbent administration very well, and we wish that they succeed. A good leader, a good person. I mean, academic as a scholar, I mean, you would be doing a great disservice to your nation by wishing any regime that seeks to govern. We are wishing their downfall. I don't wish their downfall. I wish them well. I wish they succeed, because if they succeed in delivering on their mandate, I'll be a happy person.
The ideals of June 4th, and it lives on, and like I said, posterity will judge as to the relevance of June 4th to you and I. But yes, there are people who still are protagonists of the June 4th, and to them they hold it in high esteem. Indeed, who can fault probity and accountability. We should all demand it from whichever corner we are, be in the church, school, in our little communities, in our little palaces. There should always be probity and accountability. And I always give you this number before I leave, 024-366-2001, 024-366-2001. Tati's Fashions, they make my shirts for the show. So give them a call and get yourself a shirt. But thank you very much, Professor Ransford Jumbo, for honoring us. And pleasure. Tomorrow we'll be back to do this all again. You at home, stay watching, and may your soul rest in peace. Major Maxwell Mahama. Thank you.